You're listening to Autumn on the Air, the weekly podcast that brings you conversations about the impact of research commercialization and the people who make it happen. Join us for interviews with patent and licensing professionals, innovators, entrepreneurs, and tech transfer leaders on the issues and trends that matter most. Keep listening for an inside track on the people, IP policies, and politics changing our world.
Welcome to Autumn on the Air. Today we're joined by Dr. Alfred Tan, the Deputy Director of the Technology Transfer Office at the University of Hong Kong. With a career spanning over 13 years as the head of the Knowledge Transfer Office at Hong Kong Baptist University, Alfred has played a pivotal role in facilitating the successful commercialization of numerous technologies, resulting in substantial revenue generation for the university. He also serves as a Deputy Managing Director and a board member of Versitech Limited, where he collaborates with industry partners and startups to bridge the gap between academia and industry. Alfred possesses a wealth of knowledge and expertise in knowledge management, technology transfer, and intellectual property law. With a bachelor's degree in engineering and computer systems with first-class honors, a PhD in electrical and electronic engineering, and a master's degree in IP law, he brings a unique blend of technical and legal acumen to the table. Welcome, Alfred. I'm so excited to have you here on the air.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm really excited to have you here, Alfred, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to tech transfer in Hong Kong. So I want to go ahead and dive right in. Now, as the Deputy Director of Tech Transfer Office at the University of Hong Kong and someone who's been in tech transfer for over 12 years, can you share some insights into the pivotal role that tech transfer plays in fostering innovation on an international scale?
Well, yes. Thank you so much for the question, Lisa. Looking back in my career in Hong Kong and in the tech transfer area, I can see, especially because I've been working from the perspective of the university tech transfer, I can see that technology transfer is a mean to not just fostering innovation locally or facilitating the tech transfer, between university and industry, but also on the global scale is also a pathway to connect opportunities. For example, just to give you one simple example, we have done projects where to allow technology from elsewhere in the world to potentially even enter or being tried in the China market, for example. The tech transfer from universities in Hong Kong actually plays a role to be a bridge where you can do clinical trials, you can do collaborations, you can do localizations. So again, I always look at tech transfer as a bridge to bridging both the world and the local industry, and also bridging the university and the industry as a whole.
And I think that's a really good segue to my next question, because Hong Kong's really been rapidly evolving as a global innovation and technology hub. So from your vantage point, what are some of the unique advantages or strengths that Hong Kong offers in terms of tech transfer?
Well, there are many. Thank you for the question, Lisa. There are many advantages that Hong Kong is unique and can offer to the world. Let me explain this in a very concrete way in 3 examples. Let's start with a simple example, which again is a segue from my previous answer. Hong Kong is a Western society in a Chinese country, Asian context. Let me elaborate that further. We actually adopt a Western system. Example, our healthcare. Our hospital healthcare is a Western medicine healthcare system. In the same time, there are at least 2 hospitals in Hong Kong, both big teaching hospital, public hospitals. One is the one that my institution, the University of Hong Kong, is associated with, is the Queen Mary Hospital. That hospital is the clinical trial center for NMPA, which is the FDA of China, for doing clinical trials. So you can imagine, for multinational companies that are in drug development that want to get NMPA certification, they have two options. One, they can do a clinical trial in China under the Chinese medical system, or they can do a clinical trial in Hong Kong, which in many ways are much more familiar and aligned with the Western medical system. And then they can, using the clinical trial in Hong Kong, enter the Chinese market. So already, because of the established Western system in Hong Kong, you have an easy pathway into the Chinese market. So that is one example. Another good example is the advantage of Hong Kong is our one country, two legal system foundation. In Hong Kong, we have the Hong Kong Basic Law, which have its grounding in the common law. So in terms of protection of intellectual property and so on and so forth, you have a similar, if not equivalent protection as in the Western system. And as an IP professional, let me give you one example. The concept of passing off, which is a common law concept, is actually accepted as part of the law in the basic law in Hong Kong. So, for those industry that want to actually establish into the China market, Hong Kong gives them the first step while grounded on the common law system that they're familiar with. Okay, so that's the second advantage I can share. Well, the final advantage is in our East meets West culture and language. Now, I know, China is very international, and I know that, a lot of companies move into, big cities, capital cities like Beijing, big cities like Shanghai. But as a Chinese myself, I can truly say when you're in China, it's predominantly Chinese. Yes, you have a Western community aspect and so on. In terms of the mix of the culture between the East and the West, I believe that Hong Kong still have a great advantage. And the use of English in Hong Kong is much more prevalent. So thinking along this line, if you're going to move your industry base into China, now it's not just your company, it's not just your CEO, your CTO, your key personnel, it's also their family. So I always have this mindset that one way American has been a magnet of talent around the world is because it's a society where English is the norm, and people from all around the world, for the Western education system, they speak English. They can come into America and be assimilated quite easily. The same notion, Hong Kong provide that opportunity for multinationals, non-Chinese expert to come into the society and immediately from day one be part of this East meets West environment. So that's how I look at it. I think those three advantages I hardly can see anywhere else in any major cities in China.
Yeah, those are some great advantages and some great strengths that Hong Kong has to offer. And kind of along those same lines, I wanted to ask about collaboration between academia, industry, and government, because it provides or plays a crucial role in driving successful technology transfer. So could you shed a light on some of the collaborative efforts and partnerships that are fostered in Hong Kong to facilitate effective tech transfer?
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, Lisa. Well, I can see very much the Hong Kong government and also the Chinese government are very proactive in encouraging, fostering, nurturing the collaboration between academia, industry, and government. Let me give you, again, let's start with three simple examples. Number one, two of the major incubation base for startup in Hong Kong is our Hong Kong Science and Technology Park and our Cyberport. Now, both of them actually are government-backed initiative. They are government. They're pseudo-government agency where it's the government that invests in the infrastructure, the building of the tech environment. Where again, technology, innovation from academia can be nurtured, can be incubated into startups, in the tech park, in the cyberport, so that, again, industry can benefit. So, again, the government play a pivotal role. Another example, which is a very recent development among many others, another example is that the Hong Kong government, the latest chief executive, Mr. John Lee, actually have announced a lot of support for supporting, promoting, actually encouraging tech transfer and innovation in Hong Kong, and to actually create a lot of success opportunity between academia, industry, and government. One example is that a project they call RAISE Plus, RAISE Plus, the sign plus, which is a Hong Kong dollar, a 10 billion fund.
Wow.
To support at least 100 project, deep tech project from the university, each project funded to a tune of 100 million Hong Kong dollar from the government. These are grant money. These are not equity, not loan. These are grant money to attract a corresponding 100 million from the industry to bring technology from academia to commercialize within a span of 5 years. So it's a very purposeful, very focused initiative from the government to not just provide, as I say, facilities, environment, ecosystem, but also resources to bring the tech from academia to industry with direct resources and money from the government. Finally, I can bring in another example. This is more, in my daily work. Part of the initiative from the Hong Kong government, again, to attract not just talent, but multinationals, strategic enterprises into Hong Kong so that they can leverage our ecosystem, our resources to do more business. All right, especially I think China being the second biggest economy, the huge market in China and Asia. There's a new office actually that we've been dealing with. The office is called Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprise, OASIS. Now, OASIS is tasked by the government to attract strategic multinational to come into Hong Kong and to work with the local industry, to work with the local institution like where I am, the University of Hong Kong, okay, to actually move the R&D base here, to actually invest in technology, and also to tap into the Chinese market. Now, on the personal level, all right, we have a lot of good projects, and we're also looking for collaborators using our network. But now the government has such an office where we can also assess and through their network to connect to, again, multinational companies that possibly could be a perfect fit to our technology. So you can see the government not only, again, going through my three examples just now, not only providing the ecosystem, not only providing money and resources to promote innovation and tech transfer, but also creating government offices, agency to actively, make the connection, make the introduction and attract enterprise from globally to come to Hong Kong to actually invest in and to work with the technology, the innovation locally. Right. So you can see there is a lot of excitement, a lot of work being done right now.
There's a lot of activity going on, and it's incredible not only the amount of money that the government is actually putting in, like you said, to get these inventions beyond the valley of death, but get them out and, translate them out and make an impact and create this ecosystem. And it also has these government offices to make these connections globally. So, as we've been talking, international collaboration is the key to innovation. And it seems like the Hong Kong government recognizes that. Are there other international tech transfer partnerships and initiatives that are taking place there in Hong Kong that you can talk a little bit about?
Yes. Maybe not just in Hong Kong. I can share some experience on international tech transfer collaborations that we worked on before. I mean, again, not just myself, my peers, my counterpart at different institutions in Hong Kong, we do similar work. One good example is this. Again, I think we have just came out from the lockdown or pandemic. For the last 3 years, 2.5 years. One example I can share is this. At least from the tax transfer office at the university in Hong Kong, we are not just working as transferring technology or being a bridge between the university and industry or the ecosystem or international, but we're also linking the different initiatives in tech transfer around the world. The example I want to share is, in my many years doing tech transfer in Hong Kong, one of the best, among many, many great partners I work with, one of the best ones is actually another agency in the Singapore government. In the Singapore government, under the Economic Development Board, there is a unit called IPI, the IP Initiative. And the IPI is actually a great partner of us, is because, especially I can remember during the times of pandemic, where they themselves, their mission, their role is to connect technology with the end user, with the industry, especially, of course, serving the Hong Kong, serving the Singapore SME and so on. But they went beyond that. They connect basically, some of the solutions that we have in Hong Kong with potential end user around the world. But in the same time, we leverage on that relationship. Meaning, when they have technology from their other collaborators, when they have needs from their other industries, and we as their trusted partners throughout the years, and they want to enter into China, especially during pandemic where people can't travel. So we became like a de facto agent. When I say agent, not so much, this is pro bono, okay? But agent as in, it's very hard to make new deals, new relationship in the pandemic lockdown. But it's so much easier when you are introduced by somebody they know. So I think that is one good example I want to share how tech transfer in Hong Kong, how in my experience that we've been working with our counterpart partners around the world. The example I gave is in Singapore, where we become the friends of friends. All right, so they're into technology, they're looking for a China collaborator. We might know some collaborator might be interested in technology. We just play a middle person role, and our role is effective because we know the industry in China. They trust us. They do not know the technology in Singapore. All right, but the provider of technology in Singapore knows IPI. They trust them, and IPI and us have a strong trust. So that way we can still make deals happening. All right, even though the two end counterpart does not know each other that well, or have never had a chance to meet because of pandemic. So I'm seeing that is an extension of what tech transfer can do, beyond just making deals for our own institution.
So, Alfred, I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I know you have a master's degree in IP law, and intellectual property is a critical aspect of tech transfer. So from your experience, how does Hong Kong approach intellectual property rights and their effective management in the context of tech transfer?
Well, first of all, I'm pleased to share that in the recent years, and when I say recent years, this is about 3 to 5 years, around that time, Hong Kong have established our own original filing. Okay. Previously, we only have a recorder system, meaning that we register and record filings in either in UK and then in China. But now we have an original filing. So with the original filing, actually it offers additional flexibility for inventors in Hong Kong, for innovators, for universities, or creator of IP in Hong Kong to actually have a more convenient way to protect the IP. And when I say protect the IP, that can mean many forms. Number one, if Hong Kong is the market where it should be, then it's a logical protection. But even when Hong Kong is not the ultimate market, having a local original filing system allows you to have strategy that you can leverage time, cost versus effectiveness. Let me give a simple example. Of course, when you have an original filing in your local jurisdiction, it's always the cheapest way to go because you don't have to have foreign filing fees, you don't have to work with foreign attorneys, there's no that additional cost. But Hong Kong is also part of the global IP, harmonization. So we're part of PCT, we're part of TRIPS, and so on. Meaning, when you have an invention and you want to get an early filing date, you can file in Hong Kong first, and use the localization, the more economical access to getting your priority date as a strategy to actually build your portfolio or to leapfrog to your destination. So again, there's one way where Hong Kong, even though it's a small city, if it have its own, and that goes back to one of the uniqueness I mentioned just now, because we have a different legal system. We are actually a different legal jurisdiction compared to China. So again, then we can have that flexibility that allow us to actually protect in Hong Kong first, and then think further.
So a question about that filing in Hong Kong: what language is that filing in? Can it be in English?
The filing in English, exactly, and this goes back to the other two examples I mentioned. One of the unique advantage of Hong Kong that give to the world is that yes, the legal language in Hong Kong is English and Chinese. So even in the court of law, everything is done in English. Of course, there is the jurisdiction. You can choose also to prosecute in Chinese, but majority and English is a common understood practicing language and the legal language in Hong Kong. So again, that offer the advantage. Even for foreign jurisdiction that wants to file in Hong Kong first, before again leveraging the filing to go into China. Hong Kong gives you that distinct advantage because it's all English.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. Thank you. So I want to switch gears a little bit again, Alfred, and ask you about the startup ecosystem, because they're often seen as catalysts for tech transfer and innovation. Can you tell us what the startup landscape looks like in Hong Kong, particularly in relation to tech transfer?
Well, I can say the startup ecosystem in Hong Kong is very vibrant. I mean, if you look at the statistics that in the past 10, 15 years, we pretty much grew from none to, we have a double-digit amount of unicorn actually
wow.
Created in
double
Hong Kong.
Double-digit?
All right?
That's impressive.
Yes. I don't have the exact number off my head now, but I do know within a short span of 10 odd years, the Hong Kong government, with the support of the Chinese government, actually are very proactive in fostering the entrepreneurial, the innovation ecosystem in Hong Kong, the startup ecosystem. And one more thing about Hong Kong is not Hong Kong itself, but what Hong Kong can tap into. There are two things. There are two areas I want to share. Number one, Hong Kong is a part of the Greater Bay Area of China. Okay, so it's not just Hong Kong where you can protect your IP, where you can deal in the English language, you access to top research institutions, top universities, top talents, but also you can market immediately into Greater Bay Area China, which is Guangdong, all the cities, which is a huge population. We're talking about, I don't have the number off top of my head, but I'm quite sure not far away from 70 million people. Okay, in this region, and there are a lot of special policies, special arrangements that give preferences for businesses in Hong Kong, whether those are foreign businesses or startup, actually go into Greater Bay Area. Okay, and there is only one. Number two is the rest of China. Especially Hong Kong now is, of course, the pandemic have a temporary stop to that because of the quarantine of the lockdown on the border. But other than that, the infrastructure that connect Hong Kong to the Greater Bay Area is mind-boggling. I mean, I still remember when I first arrived in Hong Kong more than 20 odd years ago. Okay, there are only the train, cross-border train, and then the buses or the ferry. You can go into China, and even any one of them, you're talking about at least more than half an hour before you can get from central CBD in Hong Kong into even Shenzhen. But now the high-speed rail, 11 minutes.
Wow, 11 minutes.
In the CBD in Hong Kong, and the next stop is Shenzhen. You're already in there, all right? As people have told me, they can actually run their operation, their headquarters in Hong Kong, their manufacturing quarters in Shenzhen, and in one day they can go through and fro multiple times for meeting, and still be at on time to go home after end of the day.
That's amazing. That's right? Incredible.
So the infrastructure is there. The network is really, really, fluid. And the important thing is this: at the end of the day, startup, innovation, industry is about market. It's about business, and you have a tap into 70 million people population, which is majority of middle class. This is huge.
That's absolutely huge. So, Alfred, education and talent development are vital for sustained growth in tech transfer. How does Hong Kong prioritize education and talent development in this field? And are there any specific initiatives or programs that are in place that our listeners who may be involved in similar endeavors might be able to learn from or maybe even replicate?
That's a very interesting question. The reason is that despite all this growth that we are seeing, and I can speak from my experience, the 13 years I've been doing tech transfer in Hong Kong, I cannot point to a particular, purposeful education or talent development tailored to develop talent in tech transfer in Hong Kong. I have to say that openly, okay? Having said that, there are a few things that I can share. Number one, I'm seeing more and more adoption in the professional practicing tech transfer in Hong Kong, actually going for education from the likes of Autumn. Okay, I see a lot of my counterpart getting their RTTP designation. Okay, I also, because I was part of the organizer that actually invited Autumn Asia, I think many years back to have a conference here in Hong Kong. I can see there is a lot of need, a lot of attraction for those education, either from, Autumn is more stateside, and then you have access, the one in UK, the one in Europe. So I can see a lot of that. But in Hong Kong, not purposeful tailor-made. And at the same time, I can say that because I've been doing this for 13 years, I see a lot of the tax transfer office actually, in a way, is an educator. People that come into the tax transfer office may be coming from different fields, but again, working in the tax transfer office become also a development ground for them to develop their skills, their knowledge set in doing tax transfer. And a lot of my colleagues in current or previous institution actually move on to be very successful, to have a very successful career in tech transfer, again, within Hong Kong and elsewhere.
So, Alfred, as technology continues to advance at a rapid pace, how does Hong Kong's tech transfer ecosystem adapt to emerging trends and technologies? And what are some of the forward-looking strategies or initiatives that are being implemented to ensure that tech transfer remains relevant and valuable in the ever-changing landscape of innovation?
Well, once again, thank you, Lisa, for the question. I can see a few things. I think in our brief discussion, in this session, we talk about what the government is doing, how the initiative from the government, the ecosystem, and so on. But I can see also the innovation landscape in Hong Kong actually is adapting to the emerging trends and changes in technology around the world. A good example is ChatGPT. Okay, I think the development in AI, the development in new material, development in new energy with the emergence and growing demand for electrical vehicles. Now, all that is not a localized problem anywhere. It's actually a global opportunity. So again, Hong Kong in itself, I'm seeing a lot of startup. I'm seeing a lot of innovations exactly in this area, in adoption of AI for different either global or regional issues. Let me give you one example. I actually recently been looking at some invention, some innovation research using AI to solve very difficult medical problems, like how to diagnose Alzheimer, how to, because a lot of those medical issues are much more challenging, not just because they're more prevalent today, but also because by the time it's obvious, sometimes it's too late.
Too late. Yeah.
Right. I think Alzheimer is a good example of that. Another example is in new materials. New energy. You might think that Hong Kong, being such a small city, might not have a huge population that have access to the need for new energy and so on, and that may be true. But having said that, we have a lot of really brilliant researchers, scientists, professors at the university, and they are working on new materials, new energies. Let me give examples. Again, this is from our universities. We have professors that are working on a new steel, we call super steel. That is a much more, dense, much stronger than the traditional steel. So essentially, you can develop a chassis for electrical vehicle with much less steel, much lighter, and yet much stronger than what the current technology can do. Okay. Now again, how I can say we don't have a car manufacturer in Hong Kong. So how does that technology relate to the changing trend, the technologies around the world? Well, because there is a need for EVs, there's a need for lighter, safer vehicles, faster vehicles around the world. This kind of technology is in demand. Okay. So again, I'm seeing that a lot of the research now are very much in tune with the emerging needs. And one final thing, Hong Kong is one of the well-known financial centers around the world. Okay, I mean, we all know that. Again, that creates a lot of opportunities because the use of blockchain, again, the use of AI, the use of a lot of this, e-payment, all these are innovations that, again, because Hong Kong have that history, have that knowledge and ecosystem that rich in finance, then it's also an obvious place where all this fintech technology can be adopted, can be tried, and can be deployed. So you can see, even though we are just a city, with a population of about 8 million people, in the same time, a lot of our inventions are influenced, are driven by the rapid change in emerging trends and technology around the world.
Well, given that, Alfred, I'm really curious, in your opinion and all the experience that you have, what do you think are some of the key challenges and opportunities faced by universities when it comes to global tech transfer? And how do you think these challenges can be effectively addressed to maximize the impact of tech transfer on a global scale?
Well, I look at your question from two perspectives. One, globalization. Another, in terms of challenges for universities, how to do global tech transfer. I would say it goes back to a few important things. Number one, just as an example I mentioned just now, we might have a technology that have a global adoption. Having said that, the obvious, the easier, the more likely adoption will be regional if not local. Because again, we do not know what we do not know. And global enterprise, it's very hard for them to access or to evaluate things that are far away. Okay, so how to actually short circuit it, how to build, how to actually do better in that perspective? I would say building networks, building relationship with, again, collaborators, not just industry, but also other tech transfer operations. Like I mentioned just now, the example of IPI. Okay, because at the end of the day, when we talk about tech transfer, we talk about doing business. At the end of the day, it's just human to human relationship. Okay, as an IP attorney, I can surely say is this: a patent is just a right. A patent on itself, essentially, a patent can worth nothing, because a patent does not make the technology. A patent does not make the product. You need the people behind that to actually develop the product, the professor to develop the product from the lab to the factory floor and to a product in the consumer shelf, right? So all these technologies, all this innovation boils down to human. And the best way to do global tech transfer effectively is to actually have a global network of people that you can work together, that you trust, that you have an easier exchange of information and knowledge. And of course, once that is done, there's a lot more work to be done in terms of streamlining the legal, the all those things. But those are, to me, those are secondary, because without the human interaction, nothing works.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things I've found with the tech transfer community is they're extremely collaborative, and that people from, it doesn't matter if you're in one country or global, you're talking global tech transfer offices, people will work together to get the technology out and make an impact. And it sounds like that's been very much your experience as well.
Yes, definitely. Because as I say, technology on its own, no matter how great it is, does not carry itself.
Definitely not. Alfred, given all your experience, what advice would you give to fellow tech transfer professionals who are eager to enhance international collaborations and strengthen their institution's global impact in the field of tech transfer?
Well, I would boil everything down to one word: relationship. Why do I say that? Well, again, I could be biased because I spent, a majority of my career, my working life, as a tech transfer professional from a higher education, sector, from the university, reaching out to the industry. So from that perspective, I always say to my colleagues and friends that let's look at the acronym we are a tech transfer office. So tech transfer start with the first word is the technology, or some people have a knowledge transfer. They start with knowledge. Who does that belong to? It does not belong to me. Okay, it belongs to the creator, the inventor, the innovator, and in the context of university, the professors. Now, we all know professors anywhere in the world, whether in Asia or in Europe or in America. Universities, the DNA of universities actually are for research, discovery of new knowledge, and also to transfer that knowledge in terms of education. All right, that is the number one DNA of universities. Universities are not built to commercialize their IP. Their main income is not in tech transfer. I'd be very blunt about it. Okay. Yes, they would like to see the impact of their invention, their research to benefit society. That's true. But you can talk to any professors. It's still publish or perish. Getting tenure, if you do not have good publication, you do not have good research, getting tenure will be very, very difficult, even though we have great, startup companies, right? So that being said, and going back to my simple understanding of tech transfer, if the technology does not belong to you, and if the technology belongs to the inventor and the professor, and their number one KPI, and by the way, the professors are super smart. They got multiple PhD, that's why they're professors. If a very smart person, the KPI of their tenure does not linked with tech transfer. It's not something that they must do. Right? If this is something that they do not need to do, but they still want to do it, why? That means you create value for them. You build a relationship. And this is why I boil everything down to building a good relationship with your inventor. And finally, when the likes of me are working in universities, I can only serve the professors in my university. I can't go and serve somebody else. So it's more important for me to build a relationship. Because at the end of the day, their success is my success.
Absolutely. And I think, Alfred, you've mentioned a couple of times you've got 13 years experience in tech transfer. So you've shared some of what you've learned about being in the profession. But as the podcast comes to the close, can you share some additional thoughts that you might have?
Yes. I'm a firm believer in doing the right thing while doing things right. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times we look at, let me share that with a story of many stories, but just one quick story from my tech transfer experience. When a professor approached me, all right, to file the IP, to do the tech transfer, to do a spin-off, the first thing I always ask, and this is crucial for me, what do you want to get out of it? What is your value for you? What can I do to help you? What do you want to get out of it? Because ultimately, I'm trying to find what value can I add for a professor. So do the right thing for their benefit while doing things right. What do I mean doing things right? While making sure everything I do to help them and they are doing to further their tech transfer is within the rules and regulations and within the policy. So we don't, look, if you're doing anything wrong or you take any shortcut, it will not be a right thing because in the long run, they will get, a bad outcome out of that. So it's our duty to, number one, look at the person and see what can I do to help you? What value can I give you? And in the same time, how can I do it professionally so that, we do it right? So I always focus on the people. And I always look at tech transfer as a mean to add value to others and to help. Well, finally, I think, Lisa, it's fair to say none of us are getting out of this life alive. And if we can, in a little way, add value or make something better or help someone and change the scenario from good to better or to best while we can, why not? Why not?
Absolutely. Very well said. And thank you, Alfred, so much for sharing your expertise and providing for us some really valuable insights into tech transfer in Hong Kong. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Autumn on the Air with Lisa Mueller. Get social with us and share your thoughts. You can tweet us at AUTM or visit us online at autm.net. We'll be back next week on the air. Be sure to join us.
New to tech transfer or a seasoned pro? Autumn is the global member organization for tech transfer and is here to help you get connected, get smart, and get ahead. Whether you work in academia, research, government, business development, corporate engagement, or startups, Autumn is dedicated to supporting you through education, advocacy, networking, and promotion. Join and you'll receive 20 free live webinars, as well as meaningful discounts on meetings and courses, insider access to a vast network of colleagues to help you through challenges, and align on new technologies and the university decision makers who license them. Membership is open for 2023. Join us.